and see if we could start soon.
We do have a quorum, Chair.
We do have a quorum. Okay. So hello, everybody who's in the room, and hello, everybody who's online. I think we're going to call this meeting to order. So it is May 27th. It's just after 9 a.m. This is the Sandag Board of Directors meeting. And I would like to ask our interpreter, Ruth, to walk us through interpretation services.
Yes, thank you. This is an announcement for on-site participants. If you're joining us today in the Sandag boardroom and need interpretation into Spanish, please check out a receiver from the receptionist on the 8th floor. The receiver comes with an earpiece which you can use to hear the meeting in Spanish. Simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. Si se ha unido a la reunión de hoy en la sala de juntas de Sandag y necesita interpretación al español, por favor, diríjase a la recepción del piso 8 y solicite un receptor. El receptor cuenta con un audífono para escuchar la reunión en español. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. The following announcement is for remote participants. And this message repeats in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. To use the Zoom interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select either English or Spanish. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now Councilmember Hsu is going to lead us in the pledge.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I'd like to thank all the board members who participated yesterday in our board workshop. We had several facilitated discussions, and I'm grateful for everybody's honesty and attention and constructive feedback. I think it was very positive, and I'm really grateful we were able to do it yesterday. So let's begin now with non-agenda public comments. Do we have any, Francesca?
Thank you, Chair. I do see one hand virtually. Katherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely. Hello. Hi, this is Katherine Rhodes. So the last day for Sandag or any government agency to put forth the ballot initiative for the November 8th, 2022 midterm election to the San Diego County Register of Voters is August 12th, 2022. So you guys have time to put forth any idea to be put on the ballot by putting forth this idea to your executive committee and then to the full board if you want to, before the August 12th deadline. So, and in accordance with Sandag's board policy 010, the item would not usurp the authority of any city, as they could opt out of the ballot if they wanted to. And this would be a super easy win for Sandag. There's no opposition to this at all. And so what it is should the County of San Diego and every city in San Diego update their language in their municipal code to confirm equal treatment of traditional and online bookings by reclassifying online travel agencies, OTAs, as hotel operators in an amended ordinance, and then amend your municipal code. And in the definition for operators to include the words online travel agencies or third-party agencies. So, for more than 20 years, San Diego has been losing out on the discounted rate that online travel agencies take for themselves. And this is an example for the city of San Diego. And this is not a tax increase. There is no tax increase. This is only a tax clarification. And you could actually call the people from the tourist marketing district because they got their full 2% TMD because they included online travel agencies as hotel operators. And previously, the tourism board said that they were very positive for people to contact them so that you could get your full TOT, like they get their full 2% TMD. And so what it is when in this example, a $200 a night hotel room, City of San Diego should get $21 in TOT revenue. And they would get that if people book through the hotel directly. But if they book through an online travel agency, they get a discounted rate. And a lot of the time, the discounted rate could be about 25%. Sometimes it's 30%. And so you're not getting your full TOT. And you guys are supposed to be, the financial people that are supposed to guard the taxpayer money. And you're not. You're letting this money slip through your fingers. And the gentleman, Michael Catalano, that goes through the leagues of cities and counties. He calls this you're just uncollected bed tax that you're just not collecting. And there's two things. You could do nothing, which you are doing and you've been doing for.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm so sorry to cut you off there, but your time has expired. Chair, we don't have any other public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our CEO report. So we'll hand it over to Hassan.
Thank you, Chair Blake Spear. Good morning, board members. I hope you all enjoyed the workshop yesterday. I know that staff looks forward to continuing to work together, go through the discussions we have, but from our standpoint, it was very fruitful discussion, very significant few hours together. That says meetings in person make a difference. I do want to start to acknowledging an important unexpected loss for our Sandag family. Sandag financial analyst Julie Burgess passed away over the weekend. For nearly 8 years, Julie was a tremendous contributor to our Transnet financial planning, budget, and grants. It is a huge loss for the agency, professionally and personally. Over the year, Julie became a friend to many of us, and she will be sorely missed. We have also had several loved ones of our Sandag staff pass away recently. It has been a tough week, but as we always say, we are a Sandag family, we'll get through this. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the tragic mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York. My heart breaks for the life lost. And I'd like to ask that we take a moment of silence for Julie and all of those who lost their lives. Thank you all. As we try to look forward, I'll share this quote from Anne Frank. How wonderful is it that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Last week, after a 2-year hiatus, we celebrated our annual Sandag Bike to Work Day. I want to thank everyone who participated and made this a successful event. I want to particularly thank those of you who were able to take time out of your busy schedules to join us. Mayor Jones, Council President Elio Rivera, and Councilmember Jack Shu. Thank you for visiting our pit stops to celebrate with the community. It was a successful day, covered by many of our media outlets, but it's a reminder that what we do matters to the communities we represent. We recorded more than 6,800 pit stop visits across the region, including in Tijuana. This is why we are working so hard to transform our streets so people have comfortable, and safe transportation options like biking to get around. Also last week, Colleen traveled with Chair Blakespear to join the San Diego Chamber of Commerce in Sacramento. I'm going to ask Colleen and the chair to make any comments at this time.
Thank you, Hassan. Yes, the chair and I had a great trip with the San Diego Chamber last week to Sacramento. And the chamber trip was done a little bit differently because of COVID. Instead of the members going and meeting in different offices, we actually had agency officers come and present and discuss kind of what the governor's office is thinking and sort of what their priorities are. And I think in a theme throughout, and the chair mentioned this yesterday in the workshop, was there is a lot of recognition of what's happening in the San Diego region and how well positioned we are for funding. I think we make it very clear the work that's been done here, setting us up for funding in the Low-San corridor for the border crossing. They're well aware of what we're doing in the area of housing. In fact, I think that came through a lot from some of the state agencies, that they see a very coordinated effort regionally and then at the local level as well. So that was really positive. And then, so we spent 2 days with the chamber, and then all day Wednesday, we were going to the various Assembly and Senate members' offices to make sure they were well aware of the agency priorities. And I like to say I go with an empty purse and tell them it's wide open and that the San Diego region is open for business and ready to make projects happen. So, and then on Thursday morning, we were invited, Hassan was invited to speak before the SACOG Board of Directors. And so I like to say that's the Sandag and the Sacramento area. They're actually a 6-county region, and they're grappling with how to address state rules and laws really about how we increase capacity on our freeways without widening freeways. And so that was one of the things they wanted to hear from Hassan, because that's something that we have woven in and made integral to the regional plan. So I think it was a very fruitful visit. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially in terms of getting funding for the Low-San corridor. So we're working with the Pro Tem's office to make sure that we're well positioned to receive whatever funds can become available, as well as funding through the surplus. So anyway, it was good. I don't know if you want to add anything. It was fun traveling with you. I think it was a great chance to connect and make sure that everyone knows what's happening in our region.
Thank you, Colleen. And my presentation to Sacramento Area Council of Government, it is, I think, what the chair alluded to yesterday, that the rest of the state and the rest of the country is looking for the San Diego region. So your leadership matters. They're looking for the San Diego region to figure out how to move forward, how to partner with the Department of Transportation, how to achieve the laws in the books, and how to do it while adding capacity to the system. So I'm glad we were invited there. I traveled to be with them in person at SACOG. The 1 hour before the meeting, electricity went out in downtown Sacramento. So I went back to the hotel and did my presentations from Colleen's room. I checked out already, but she still has the room. Interesting that you travel and it didn't work out the way we planned. Since we last met, the team has taken your feedback on the Central Mobility Hub. And it's working hard to collect additional data to bring back to the board on the different options on the project. I know there are a lot of questions about exactly where the Central Mobility Hub would be downtown, so I want to emphasize again. One, our focus at Sandag is on the transportation connection to the airport, the transportation component of the project at the Central Mobility Hub, and so far no decision has been made. We have conducted very high-level studies of the potential redevelopment of the Civic Center, which bounded by First and Third Avenue and A and C Street, but much more needed to be done. In order to do this, we are working with the city to start to develop agreements that would outline resources that Sandag would contribute and the city would contribute to gather the information and to conduct the studies. To further develop and determine to the best detail possible where the Central Mobility Hub downtown will be. At this time, it's just staff working with staff to continue with those agreements, to outline what those agreements could potentially include. But I want to be sure you know that we are working on that. Any MOUs developed will be coming to this board for either approval or disapproval. We also are working on reconvening the original agency group from the airport, the port, transit agencies, the cities, so we can reemphasize and recommit working together. As you know, we have an MOU with all these agencies I mentioned to work together toward the development of the connection to the airport. We will continue bringing you updates at each meeting and hope to be able to return in September with another report that includes some of the details you are looking for. Time of the essence. We would like this board to take action soon so we can start the notice of preparation for the environmental work on both the connection to the airport and the transportation portion of the Central Mobility Hub. One other update on Central Mobility Hub. We learned yesterday that Congressman Peters, Scott Peters, has included $4 million as one of his appropriation earmark requests for fiscal 2023. And we want to say thank you to Congressman Peters. We also to thank Congressman Vargas for including $3.5 million request for the Bayshore Bikeway project in Burlogan. And I understand that Congressman Issa is submitting for $20 million for the 5 State Route 78 managed lane project. I want to thank all of our delegation for always working on behalf of the region in a bipartisan manner. There is still a lot of work to be before we know if any of this money becomes real, but we really appreciate our delegation working so hard to bring funding like this to this region. However, we did just learn this morning that we have received an $8 million CRISI grant to replace one of our low-sand bridges on Ross Canyon. That's good news. That's $8 million we didn't have. Congratulations to the Sandag team that made that possible. This has been a long-standing safety priority for us, and I'm so glad we were able to secure this funding to finally replace it. That is what I want you to know Sandag for. Getting the resources needed to make sure our residents are safe when commuting anywhere in the region. I also want to know that the latest on Otay Mesa 2. This is really important. I believe next meeting I'm going to be bringing to you recommendations for significant action that involve dollars. Not surprisingly, as we get closer to construction, costs are starting to come up. We're learning that the cost of the site preparation that we're about to do is going to go up significantly. Obviously, you know, inflation, supply chain, all of other factors. Now, we are going to go to the state of California, Department of Transportation, and California Transportation Commission to ask for more money because of cost increase. And I think we're going to be successful in receiving that. But if we go to the second bidder, we might require a couple of $1 million of local money. And so staff right now is trying to figure out where we would get that done. We cannot stop here. We're getting to the finish line. We're working very closely with the Department of Transportation, who, as I said yesterday, we're the envy of the rest of the state of our partnership with District 11. We will work hard to get more state funding, but also the region need to be ready to put some local funding if needed. Secondly, Several weeks ago, we met with the rating agencies, waiting for our rating so we can get the TIFIA loan. The rating agencies gave us some comments, which they'll get back to us hopefully the end of the month. But one of the comments they gave about creating a reserve fund, $20 million reserve fund, in case something goes wrong. Staff will be also bringing to you a recommendation for both the $20 million reserve fund and the potentially $2 million local funding needed for that project. I'm letting you know about this so you can ask question when you see that on the agenda next week. This is significant recommendation. This is a project that's a top priority for the agency. We have invested over $600 million so far, and we're within reach to open this facility for both Baja California and California, September 2024. There is a challenge in that project that's still looming, and that is the commitment from the federal government through Custom Protection and General Service Administration to fund staffing for the project. We're meeting with them regularly. I would say I would like the progress to be better, but we continue to work, and the ultimate goal is to include staffing request of about $50 million in the federal Homeland Security budget for 2023. So look forward to bringing that to you next meeting. Looking forward, Saturday, June 4th, Sandag and Caltrans will celebrate several major milestones on the North Coast Corridor project. The completion of the San Leheo Lagoon restoration, a new walking and biking trail, and highway and rail improvement. This is a project as used an example of complete corridors, and progress is moving forward. The ribbon cutting ceremony starts at 11 a.m. with the family, friends, activities for everyone to enjoy following the ceremony. We hope you can all join at the San Leheo Lagoon Ecological Reserve. I hope to see you there. On June 8th, phase 5 of the Del Mar Bluff Stabilization Project is going to the California Coastal Commission for a federal coastal consistency review. We're working with the Coastal Commission staff, and we're hopeful for an action that makes us move forward. We're also working with our partner transit agency, NCTD, North County Transit District. I received a letter from Matt Tucker. They're having some concern about the Coastal Commission issues, but we're working through them. Finally, I would like to share with this board, as I said yesterday briefly, that right now we're trying really hard to keep our staff from going somewhere else because of all kinds of reasons. But also we're trying really hard to fill over 60 vacancies. This is a goal of mine to make this agency an employer choice. But as everywhere in the market, it's really difficult. So anything you can do to help me increase the morale of this agency staff is a welcome factor. We need to keep good people and attract good people working here to bring the millions of dollars and build the amazing infrastructure we're thinking about. We are looking forward to filling these vacancies. And still, the cost of living in San Diego is really hard to justify for somebody from outside, but we're gonna do our best to provide other benefits, other flexibilities to fill these vacancies. Understand that 60 vacancies out of 400 is a lot of vacancies. That means a lot of the staff here internally have to work harder. We're gonna do everything possible to make sure they know how much we appreciate them, and I hope you do the same.
we are looking forward to, finally, we are looking forward to hosting FTA Deputy Administrator Veronica Vanterbull on the Executive Director of GoBiz over the next couple of weeks, and taking them to see our important project, hosting them here in the agency. I will make sure we'll give you the exact time and date in case some of you want to welcome them with us. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. There was a lot of really important information in that CEO report, and I think anyone who is listening closely to it heard that. We were having a conversation yesterday about the relationship between staff and board and how it is that we communicate clearly, both to the public and to have a positive relationship that assumes good intent. I think we talked about that a lot yesterday. And so I just want to highlight a few things that the CEO said, which I'll say are not things I know more about than what I just heard today. But I just want to be really clear about this because sometimes these things come up later and there's a perception that maybe this wasn't talked about. But so just to highlight, so one of the things the CEO just said is that the Otay Mesa East costs are higher than were expected. And so that means that we're going to have to deal with that. Another thing that he said is that we're being asked to provide a $20 million reserve fund, which I think is also something we weren't expecting, but we're going to need to deal with that. He also said that we're trying to find a location for a central mobility hub in downtown San Diego. So I think that's what that means, is that this agency of SANDAG is going to need to communicate with the staff of the city of San Diego to discuss how it is that the agencies that are involved would get their various needs met. So in the same way that we had a conversation about SANDAG and NAVWAR, we were talking with the military about the military's need for office space and SANDAG's need for a central mobility hub. Now we're having that conversation with the city of San Diego, and the city of San Diego would say, whatever they say, which I don't have any information about, but it would be, we need a new city hall, we need a new fire station, we need a new homeless center, whatever it is. And SANDAG would say, well, we need a transit stop, a central mobility hub. And so that conversation is happening, will start to happen at a staff level now, I mean, or is there preliminarily is about to happen. And so the CEO is telling us about that. And then something will come back to us that would be formalized like an MOU. But I just want to be really clear that this isn't, sometimes there can be this idea that something sneaky is happening. And actually there's nothing sneaky happening. So there's the city of San Diego with its problems with Ash Street has nothing to do with this agency. So whatever ends up happening with all the litigation associated with Ash Street is not related to SANDAG, but we do need to have a central mobility hub in San Diego. And so that discussion is something that's starting right now. So I just want to say all of that publicly so that it's really clear when we start to have a conversation about where is the central mobility hub and what does it do for this agency? Because this agency's concerns, of course, primarily are transportation. And we, of course, do not have land use authorities, the cities do. So we need to be working with the cities and within the cities in order to make it possible for us to do the things we need to do. He also shared important things that are happening for the agency, like the North Coast Corridor project on June 4th, some major finalizing of projects that will be open, which is really exciting. I live near a lot of those projects, and it's tremendous what is being built across lagoons and providing better bike paths, and I'm just totally thrilled by it. I mean, when you see it emerging out of the ground, you think, wow, this is really transformational. And then as well, the June 8th Del Mar Bluff Coastal Commission issue, which is also a big deal that affects this agency, and we have 60 slots and more that are open, and we had somebody die at the agency, which was an important staff person. So, I mean, there's a lot of information in there, and it's really important to me that the board and the public is really clear about the fact that all of that was just shared by our CEO, and this is happening at every board meeting to get us up to speed on things that are not actually on the agenda yet. So it's like, there's not a thing until there's a thing. So he's saying what is the environment around, what is the work this agency is doing, so that the board can be aware of all this. So I thank you for including so much content in there, and you know, I look forward to us continuing to have these kinds of conversations.
Thank you. And Chair, if I may, I missed one thing on the transit connection to the airport. As you heard before, the CEO of the port is here. We were talking about the port properties, the 13 acres. We're also starting the same discussion with the port staff about how to move forward, because we, again, the same thing, we don't own those properties. So all these discussions are still start to start. The board will have the ability to see them when we're ready.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to take board comments in the room and then go to any board comments online. So Mayor Salas.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for that real thorough report. And, you know, the sadness that this agency is experiencing with the loss of your personnel, and the hope that we can all be more understanding as board members and realize that our role, if we feel that there's some improvement that needs to be done for Sandag, that it's our responsibility to make sure that we constructively try to do that without blame or suspicion, right? And I want to tell the board members that were not there yesterday, we really missed you, okay? Because the dialogue that you provide and your feelings and your opinions are really important to bettering this board and understanding just where you think that the deficiencies are. I also want to say that as a mayor of a big city, that we have our staff challenges too. And I've been in elected office long enough to know what a functional and board that works in building teams, how much can be accomplished there. And I've also served on the city council when it was very dysfunctional. And we had staff running in all kinds of directions, making all kinds of unreasonable demands on them. And that really stopped us from making a lot of progress. So I think that we really need to be mindful about what you're directing staff to do, what you're asking them to do, how early you want those agendas prepared for distribution, for example. We have to be reasonable about that it takes time to develop those agendas, that it takes time to get all the information that's needed to really fully give us that information, and that we're board members here. And yes, it seems like a short time that we're giving to review things. That's correct, but it's our job to do it. It's our job as members to do that. I've never encountered a situation where I had a question and staff wasn't available and ready to answer those questions for me. So I just would remind all of us to be more civil in our discussion, to be more generous in the way that we talk about different issues and try to understand perspectives of other people. And that I really feel for the staff here. I really do, because this is such a huge organization. It's even much larger than the operations that the city of San Diego has to conduct with all the projects and all the dollars that are coming forward. So when you're talking about 400 staff members that are working on this, the organization was working lean. I know that. So those are my comments. And again, I really appreciated the retreat yesterday. Hope that the civility improves on this board, and hope that we're not listening to the same old complaints, that no matter how you answer the complaints, it's never going to be enough, right? And so we just need to move forward as a board, and I really respect your staff, Hassan. I feel for them, and I want to let them know that whatever happens here, they are truly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room want to make any comments? Yes, Council President Ala Rivera.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Hassan, for the report, and again, reiterating the mayor's condolences for the losses that Sandag has suffered. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Mayor Salas had said. I think that the comments about just being really aware of the impacts, and we talked about this a bit yesterday, but the impacts that we have as a board on staff, on the institution and all of the individuals who work there is a really important one. And as someone who comes from the nonprofit world, where I was was an executive director and had a board to report to, but also served on boards. I think just what I was thinking about as you were talking is how important it is for us to make sure that we're acting as a body, because 21, there's a lot of us. And if we don't act as a body, if we're making our requests in a haphazard way, one, there's a power dynamic that's going to make folks feel like they have to respond to us, that we have to be aware of, and I have to constantly remind myself of that as well, and how we ask for information. But it's exhausting. The amount of staff Sandag would need to dedicate to this board to be able to respond to each of our individual requests whenever we have them would be massive. And from what I saw yesterday, we want to run a pretty lean operation here. And I think the amount of resources that would be required to do that would just be monumental. So I appreciate those comments, Mayor Salas. It's a good reminder to me. I hope to all of us that, especially on a board of this size, that acting, remembering we're one of a body is super, super important, and putting our requests forward in such a manner is incredibly important as well. So thank you for that, Mayor Salas, and Hassan, thank you for the report.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Shu.
I want to ditto what was just said, but also want to give special appreciation to Mayor Salas, giving us her experience and her knowledge from so many years of public service well before she leaves this board. So thank you, Mayor Salas.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair Blakespear. I want to echo many of the sentiments this morning. First of all, very sad about the loss of our staff member. I know that really hurts everyone, honestly, in the organization. So anyway, my heartfelt prayers go out to the family and also the Sandag family of her. And then also, I want to mention the dedication of our staff, and I agree with you. Director Acrata, I think it's important that we always appreciate our staff. I do that at the city all the time, but they do work very hard. And that was very apparent yesterday, both at our retreat and then last week at Bike to Work Day, which I'm glad you brought that up, because I have to tell you, they were waiting for me. They wanted to see me ride in on my bike, which they did. And it was a harrowing experience, because I realized that on my actual trip to City Hall, it's over 2 miles, and I don't have an electric bike. I have a regular beach cruiser. I couldn't get it out of my first gear. I was having an issue. But then I also realized that we don't have any bike lanes right there at the 78 on the bridge. And there was an on-ramp and an off-ramp, which makes it very difficult. And so the great thing about the retreat yesterday is I was able to talk to Caltrans, and thank you again, Anne, for that discussion. And I know she's on it. I was telling her that it would be great to have some bike lanes, and how can we deal with that? So anyway, the collaboration, I think, was really nice yesterday. And also the discussion about transparency and honesty and how that's vital to our organization. So then I want to bring up a couple of things, Director Acrata. Thank you so much for discussing all the things that you did. I wanted to talk about the regional plan. I know that is seeking approval right now from CARB. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask is, I know it's been about 6 months since we actually approved that plan with the road user charge in it. And I wanted to find out when we would be getting those metrics that show what the greenhouse gas reduction and also the VMT reduction is without the road user charge, because we are at that 6-month point, and that's the promise that we made to the residents of San Diego County. So I want to make sure that is coming forward at our next meeting, because I definitely want to make sure that we meet that timeline that we did promise the residents of San Diego County. And then also, I'd like to have Mr. Kirk weigh in. And I'm very concerned about what legally we're doing. We are seeking the CARB approval, and I'm not sure if we should be seeking CARB approval before we are removing the road user charge, since we've already voted to remove the road user charge if it comes back. And so I'm just not sure how that works. So I'm hoping that we can get some clarification on that. So some clarification as to where we're at in the process and if we will indeed be meeting our 6-month time frame, and then also what is going on as far as the legal part of the road user charge still being part of the plan, seeking the CARB approval.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I'll start, and then John and Colleen could add. Yes, we are going to come back to you starting next month with some analysis that we've been doing to update you on what happened if certain element of the plan comes out, et cetera, et cetera. We're expecting the approval letter from ARB by July 22nd. By July 22nd. As I told you last time, and I think the analysis is being done right now in preparation for us coming to you with a recommendation to start the process of removing the road user charge from the plan. But we're gonna comply with the 6 months by giving you some analysis, not complete, but some work that we did, models what we run that gives some of this. As to the legal part, I'll let our chief counsel answer.
Mayor, as I understand the question, whether it's proper procedurally to be seeking CARB approval before consideration of removal of the road usage charge. The removal of the road usage charge ultimately would be some kind of a modification to the plan. So really, CARB is considering the current version of the plan. It is proper to have them consider approval of the current version of the plan to the extent that you as a board decide in the future to modify that plan, including but not limited to removal of the road usage charge. There would, I believe, be a subsequent consideration by CARB of that. But right now you're going through things in the proper steps. They would consider approval of the current plan first before you look to modify it.
And just to add, Mayor Jones, a removal of the road user charge would require us to redo the plan and resubmit it again for both federal and state governments. That means a plan amendment. That's why the process is going to take a while. But for now, it is, I mean, the plan in front of them is the plan in front of them.
Okay, so that it means there's going to be an EIR update, correct? Because I would imagine that removal of the road usage charge, which a preponderance of the board was saying that they were not supportive of that, even though it was approved that way, to have the road user charge as part of the funding mechanism. I would imagine the GHG and the VMT changes would require us to update our EIR, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Like we told you last time, Mayor Jones, this will actually reconstitute putting the plan out for public review, doing redoing the EIR and putting it out for 45 days required. So all the requirements of doing a plan will have to be done if we remove this. This is significant enough to do that.
Okay, all right, great. I was a little unclear if that was a full EIR update, so thanks for clarifying that. And the next steps.
This is something that we'll have to analyze. Once we see what's before the board, exactly what those steps will be analyzed. It looks likely at this point it'll be a full EIR, but we won't know that exactly until we see what the action is that's before us for consideration.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Kirk. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Hsu?
I just want to clarify the motion that was passed right after we passed the EIR in December was to reconsider road use charges with the consideration of equity. So the preponderance of the board was not to remove the road use fee without those kinds of reviews.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hall.
Yes, and I'll just carry on, I think, with Ms. Jones, and that just triggered some thoughts. But is CARB aware that we've voted to do this? Are they aware of where we're at in the process and know that we're going to come back with perhaps some changes afterwards?
Have the resolution. And CARB has the plan the way you adopted it, and they have the resolution. So they're not aware of our future plans because we still don't know exactly what your action is going to be. So they have the plan the way you adopted it back in December.
Okay, because, I appreciate Mr. Shu, but I remember the conversation being a little different. So the other thing, and I just want to echo Mary Salas and her comments, and all of us who've been part of government for many, many years, we understand the heart and soul of our organization is the people behind the scenes. It is our workforce. And I sometimes question when we have a 15% turnover. I don't know that that's a monetary issue. And I would just ask the board that maybe we need to do some in-depth surveys or something with our workforce, just to make sure that we have a clear understanding of thoughts and feelings, and whether it's a board issue or perhaps an internal issue. I think we need to delve into that, because that is a big number for a turnover. And I know things are hard right now in trying to hire people, but I didn't vote for it, but we did hire over 60 people here in the last year or so in Carlsbad, and we didn't have much of a challenge in doing that. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gasterland.
Yes, I have a question. So I was strongly supportive of revisiting the road usage charge for exactly the reasons that Board Member Shu mentioned, for equity purposes. That's very important. And my question is, will it be considered in the EIR as part of the no project alternative?
Go ahead.
So Councilmember Gasterland, so just to be really clear here, the direction from the board was to begin work to look at what it would take to remove a road usage charge and to look at that from an equity perspective. And so that's what the board directed us to do. And so what we're preparing right now is a work plan that would put that forward. Right now, we don't know exactly what would be included in that work plan, because we need you all to weigh in on that. And once we do that, then we will determine the scope of environmental analysis that is needed and what alternatives would go into the CEQA document. So hopefully, I mean, there are still a lot of unknowns until we bring that forward to you for your direction on where you want to go with it.
Yes, Mayor Minto.
Yeah, I want to make a comment regarding Mayor Hall's statement about the people leaving and whatnot, and how high that seems. And I'm in agreement with him. Unfortunately, in my city, I forget, we used a term yesterday about all the people leaving. Great resignation. The Great Resignation. Well, in my city, we call it the Gray Tsunami. And I have about 8 department heads, and 5 have left in the last 3 months. So extremely high percentage. Just when you have an aging population that is ready for retirement, it's unfortunate that all came to fruition at the same time. So I'm with Matt on that. It's too bad it's just that many at one time.
Make a comment for just clarification for Mayor Hall and Mayor Minto. I hope you didn't understand my report to say that they're leaving not because of the board or whatever reason. I mean, they call it the Great Resignation everywhere. Overall, just historically, we had about 7-8%, I believe, Melissa. That's the people leaving. It's around now 14% right now. So this is nothing like any of the board did or any of our policies. But for San Diego to attract people from outside, cost of living comes into play really very hard. I mean, I've been in this business for a while, and a lot of people would love to work for San Diego, but they couldn't afford to live in San Diego. So, but I didn't mean to say this is because of certain factor, but we'll be happy to give you a reason. I'll have Melissa report to you what we're hearing from the exit interviews for people leaving. And the last thing I would say, while we lost quite a few people in the last few months, we also hired 96, almost 100 new people. So you won't recognize, I don't recognize all of our staff right now because there's new faces. So just for you to know that.
Thank you. Mr. Mel Katz.
Thank you. this is not on with my water authority hat on, this is with my staffing hat on, but I'm not sure how flexible Sandag is being in rehiring and bringing back people. During a board meeting, when you were thinking about doing this, it was everyone on the staff had to be back and work in Sandag's offices. And when you're looking at the market today, it is so much easier to hire people if you're giving the flexibility of allowing them to work remote. So I'm not sure if that has already happened, but if it hasn't, you might want to readdress how important it is for people to actually be working in the Sandag offices.
If I may address that, that's a great question. Actually, right now, we're operating on with the 980 schedule and the telecommute allowance. Staff can telecommute once a week. So we work 4 days a week. As we speak, we're looking at our policy flexibility for certain professions, for certain like science and data and IT. We're looking at that, and we're willing to offer whatever flexibility that coincide with our business model. I believe our business as a public agency we need to be present where we are, but we are not looking at flexibility. It's been a year since we adopted the policy. We're going to revisit in the next few weeks. So we might offer more flexibility. We might, for example, look at the 980. We are now working 9 days every 2 weeks. And we might say, no, instead of that, we want to offer flexibility of 2 days every week. We're looking at all of that and weighing the pros and cons. But you're absolutely right. That's where the market requires us to go in certain professions right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, this has been a great discussion. I don't see any other hands up in the room or online. So do we have any public comment on the CEO's report?
Thank you, Chair. We do have one virtual public comment on this item. Katherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. This is Katherine Rhodes, and it's great news that there's going to be a new MOU agreement with the City of San Diego and Sandag for the Downtown Central Mobility Hub site. My question is, this is just kind of like a CEQA analysis. Is this what you're going to be doing? And I believe Sandag's planning and engineering staff is far superior to the City of San Diego staff. And as citizens of San Diego, we really need the professional help of Sandag staff. So this is a great idea. For everybody else, please support a new MOU agreement. And the City of San Diego has money to pay for Sandag staff's time to analyze a new city hall and multi-block development. However, I do not agree with the downtown site for a central mobility hub. The port headquarters site for the central mobility hub is a superior alternative. And a waterfront site for a new city hall at the parking lot bounded by Pacific Highway, Harbor Drive, Grape and Hawthorne, with the new Civic Opera House on a new pier could be part of a new CEQA analysis. So Sandag staff is very thorough. And when you look at your MOU, maybe if you could look at different locations for a city hall and actually look for the waterfront site that would be in accordance with the Nolan plan. And so, my LaPlaya plan for the Central Mobility Hub and a waterfront city hall is at tinyurl.com/2022-0419A. And I'm very supportive, of the MOU with the City of San Diego. And even if the Central Mobility Hub is located at port headquarters, I hope the MOU would be created so Sandag can supervise the construction of any new civic project for the City of San Diego. That would be great. For 101 Ash Street building agreement, it should be boarded by our city charter section 225 mandatory disclosure of business interest. It's very weird that nobody at the city asked the state attorney general for a legal opinion if the agreement could be voided by law for us citizens. And can Sandag legal staff ask for a legal opinion from the state just to give the city council another point of view than our city attorney? I agree with getting rid of the road user charge because any road user charge may happen at the state level, and we shouldn't have this argument down here at the local level. And any supplemental to the EIR is not a big deal. And instead of a road user charge, maybe you could, put in the normally restricted airport revenue and the passenger facility charge as a revenue source in a new CEQA update. And I'm very sorry for the Sandag staff that passed away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and that concludes the public comments.
Okay, thank you. So now we are on to consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on items 3.
Chair Blake, before you do, I have a question on item number 4.
Yes.
So that is where we are approving a contract award to conduct environmental consulting services and conduct a solicitation for on-call modeling services. And since Sandag will be considering whether or not we take the tolls off the road as early as 2027, I think it would be important to consider all potential options, including the removal of the toll. So in anticipation of removal of the toll, I would request Sandag to also include that as well, that particular option.
Does staff want to respond to Mayor Salas?
We would include that in the scope.
We will include that in the scope. We will include that in the scope.
Thank you so very
of
much.
course.
Thank you. That was my only
Yeah,
question.
of course.
I move the agenda.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion from Mayor Mento to move the consent calendar,
I'll second
and
it.
Mayor Salas seconded it. Let's go ahead and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall. Mayor Hall, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes?
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson.
Aye.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Aye.
For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina. Mayor Dedina, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear your vote if you did state it. I'll come back. For the City of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Yes?
For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
The City of Oceanside is absent. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina. Mayor Dedina, if you're having technical difficulties and would like to provide it either in the chat or via text, I'll state it for the record when I receive it. But for now, we'll go ahead and mark Imperial Beach as absent. And that item does pass unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. So next we are on to item number 11, proposed final fiscal year program budget. So I'll hand it over to staff to handle. Andre and team.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, board members. So in March, we presented the draft budget to the Executive Committee and the board, which was then distributed to our member agencies, the public, our funding agencies for comment. We received some comments from our federal funding agencies that have been incorporated into the final budget. We also received some board comments that we have responded to through our board clerk, and we have made adjustments accordingly. Earlier this month, we presented the final proposed budget to the Executive Committee, and they recommended that the board adopt the budget. So today, Melissa, Sandy, and I are here to present the final proposed budget with a focus on the changes between the draft and final budgets. The draft budget was $960 million, and I had mentioned during the presentation in March that we had fallen below the $1 billion for the first time because the Midcoast Trolley project was finally complete. However, we did have some increases between the draft and final, and our proposed budget is now back over $1 billion at $1.004 billion, which is an $80 million increase between the draft and final. So last month, we brought the board the increased sales tax estimates for TDA and Transnet that will generate several additional millions of dollars to our member agencies and transit agencies. For TDA, the total increase was $23 million, and the majority of those funds go directly to the transit agencies. All the increase for Transnet go through our budget, and the majority is a pass-through. As you can see from this table, 15.3 million, for example, will be going to our local member agencies. 11.5 million will go to the transit agencies, 19.7 million to the major corridor program. And then the bike program will get an additional $1 million, and Sandag also benefits from the increased estimates by $1 million too. So in general, we are confident on the revenue side of what is coming in from both federal, state, and also our local sources. But with this continued significant inflation, we feel that it is imperative that we put aside some of this additional funding for unexpected and increased costs. For example, we are proposing to increase our administration budget contingency, our overall work program contingency, and for the first time, we'll actually have a board budget contingency too. In addition to increasing the balances in our contingency funds, we are also proposing using some of the additional revenues in our programs. Sandy will now present how those increases, along with additional revenues we have received between draft and final, and how they'll impact our OWP, our operations and capital, and will highlight the largest changes in those programs. And then Melissa will highlight the proposed changes in our admin and staffing resources.
Thanks, Andre. So the first major program in the budget is the overall work program, or OWP. This includes our data planning and communications projects. The program increased $3.8 million from draft to final, primarily due to adding $1.5 million from the county for the youth transit opportunity passes and moving $1 million of federal funding from FY22 to 23 to reflect the May 1st start date. We also added $331,000 from MTS for the San Ysidro Mobility Hub Planning Project and $874,000 for staffing changes, which Melissa will discuss in a second. The operations budget, which includes the toll facilities, freeway service patrol, and ARGIS program, increased $692,000 for those staffing changes as well. And the largest part of the budget is the capital budget. The annual spending here increased $29.5 million. This includes changes to the multi-year budget, which is detailed in attachment 2 of the agenda report. And a few of the highlights we have here on the slide include $15 million from the omnibus bill for Del Mar Bluffs 5, the Bayshore Bikeway in Barrio Logan, Palomar Street rail grade separation, and the Del Mar Tunnel study on the Los Angeles corridor. We also added $17 million for the Uptown Bikeway Eastern Hillcrest project. 11 million of that is coming from the city of San Diego and $6 million from Transnet. The State Route 78 I-5 Express Lanes corridor, the connector that was part of the future projects list in the draft budget, is now being brought forward into FY23. And $3.2 million for SR 125 CMCP project. 300,000 of this is programmed in FY23 to complete a tolling analysis. And $3 million for the Central Mobility Hub that the board approved earlier this month at the last meeting. And now Melissa will talk about the board and admin budgets and personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate that. And good morning. It's good to see all of you today. So I'll start by making a few comments about the administration and board budgets, just as a reminder that these two budgets really are what support our business operations here at Sandag. They represent about $25 million of next year's budget, or about 2.5%. In his opening remarks, Andre talked about the availability of additional revenues and how a portion of these have been incorporated into next year's budget in the form of contingency reserves. And again, Andre had mentioned our intention here of increasing the administration contingency reserve by $150,000 and adding for the first time a $50,000 contingency for the board budget. Again, these amounts would be used if there were unexpected costs or increased increases in operational expenses in the year ahead. Things like maybe increased insurance premiums, additional professional services, replacement of equipment, and so forth. Next, onto the personnel budget, and I just wanted to start out by saying, and I think on behalf of the Sandag team, really recognize and appreciate the comments that were made this morning. I think the appreciation of the staff really will go a long way, so thank you for that. And before sort of getting into the recommendations in the personnel budget, I did want to mention a few of the items that have informed the recommendations that we'll be talking about today. One is just to reiterate, and it's again the comments that you've made this morning, that it is imperative that we continue to focus on our goal of attracting, rewarding, retaining a talented employee group. So that definitely anchors a lot of the recommendations here. And while those goals on their own are not new for our personnel program, again, as you've noted this morning, these are more imperative than ever, given current economic conditions and the volatility in the labor market. We're seeing record level inflation rates, growth in wages and turnover rates, and of course, all of this is coupled with very low employment rates. During the organization, or the reorganization, excuse me, that was initiated earlier this year, the directors here at Sandag evaluated the overall staffing needs of the agency relative to our priorities as well as to our funding resources. Took steps to convert or repurpose existing positions throughout the organization, including several executive level roles. The work that was done here also revealed where there are gaps in skill sets, gaps in expertise that we need for our work program. And as a result, we're competing for talent in a very tight job market, and as you've heard, having difficulty filling certain positions. This is not unique to Sandag, and what we're seeing in our research is employers around the country are addressing the labor market shortages in several ways. One of the biggest tactics has been to offer higher salaries. Mm-hmm. Of course, with higher salaries means that our employees are at risk for leaving. And we have seen an increased level of turnover within the organization. I think Hassan mentioned that historically that rate has been at about 7 to 8%. And year to date in FY22, that's more than doubled and now sits at about 18%. So with that as background, let me tell you about some of the recommendations that we've incorporated into the final FY23 budget with respect to personnel costs. The staff here have been working with the agency's compensation consultant, and there are 4 recommendations that we've included into the final budget. These are all based on existing market conditions, and again, go back to supporting that goal of attracting, rewarding, and retaining talent. The first 2 changes relate to the agency's overall salary structure, and these include a 2.5% increase to all salary ranges. We're also proposing to move about 70 positions to higher level salary ranges. And just a note on that recommendation, if you recall, Sandag conducted a salary range study last year. Due to budget constraints last year, we weren't able to implement all the recommendations that came from the study, and we committed to bringing those recommendations forward in FY23. So that's the basis there. The other 2 recommendations for the compensation program tie to employee pay. The first of these is a 3% merit pool for performance-based pay increases. This was in the draft budget. It has not changed in the final. The new item for the final budget, though, is in conjunction with the recommendation to increase all the salary ranges. We are proposing a general salary increase for all employees. If this were to be approved, each eligible employee would receive a pay adjustment that is equivalent to 2.5% of the midpoint of their salary range. As a reminder, Sandag doesn't typically provide automatic across-the-board increases for employees. However, this year, the agency risks falling below market and losing more employees if we don't take measures to ensure that we have competitive pay practices. With respect to the benefits program, there is just one change to mention between the draft and final budgets, and that is that the annual contribution to the pension pre-funding trust has been restored to $1 million. That's what we have typically contributed. It had been reduced to $750,000 for budget balancing purposes for the draft budget. And then part of wrapping up here, we've mentioned our employee group several times. And again, thank you so much for the acknowledgement and recognition of the staff group. I share in the sentiments. You also mentioned about employees sort of being the heart and soul of this organization. And that is a conversation that the directors here have pretty regularly, recognizing that our employees are really the engine that drives this organization. Significant work has really been done to think about how do we align employees, use their best talents, really make sure they're focused on the agency's priorities. That work has been done. And with that, we've also identified where additional resources are needed within the organization. Within the capital program, so that we can continue delivering your regional projects. In our IT group, to support implementation of new systems, as well as provide the resources that will be needed for hybrid work arrangements. In our diversity and equity, finance and communications teams with their work programs. And finally, a new position has been included for the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor. The costs for these additional positions have been embedded in the various program budgets that Sandy highlighted recently. So thank you so much for listening to our recommendations for the personnel and admin board budgets. And turn things back to Andre, but happy to answer any questions that you might have this morning. Thank you.
Great, thanks Melissa and Sandy. So pending your approval today, this will complete our meeting schedule on the fiscal year 23 budget. And so today, the Board of Directors is asked to adopt Regional Transportation Commission Resolution number RTC-2022-12, adopting the final fiscal year 23 program budget. Thank you, Chair. I'll turn it back to you, and staff is available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's take the public comment first, and then we'll go to board comment. Do we have any public comment, Francesca?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do have 2 in-person public comments to start. And first, we'll start with Jerry Trussell, who will be followed by Trent St. Louis. And Jerry, if you'd like to step up to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, thank you. Jerry Trussell with the Uptown Community Parking District Executive Director. And I'm here to request your support for the inclusion of the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeways and Normal Street Promenade into your FY23 budget. In addition to the bike lanes connecting Mid-City through Uptown, and we have fabulous 4th and 5th bikeways to link up, this would provide linkage from Mid-City all the way through Uptown to downtown. And in addition to the bike lanes, it will create a dynamic gathering place in Hillcrest. 2 decades in the making, and hundreds of volunteers and community people came in to design this plan. And it also brings 30 desperately needed parking spaces to the area. So I encourage your support, and thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Trent St. Louis. After that, we'll move on to the virtual public comments, which will start with Ben Nichols.
Hello, everyone. Actually, Jerry spoke on my behalf, but I do just want to say that I'm a 27-year Hillcrest resident, and I have a fairly good idea of the pulse of the community there, and they would love, for many reasons, to see the promenades. We totally ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Ben Nichols, followed by Katherine Rhodes. Ben, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Benjamin Nichols, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hillcrest Business Association. We represent 1,300 small businesses in Hillcrest and have been working to improve the neighborhood of Hillcrest for over 100 years. I'm here to urge your support for this item, and specifically funding for the Normal Street Promenade in Hillcrest as part of the Uptown Bikeway project. This project will create a first-of-its-kind promenade in San Diego that will convert excess travel lanes into walkable, bikeable public spaces that serve the community's need for quality recreational areas, placemaking, and gathering spaces. This collaboration draws together a variety of funds that will leverage Sandag's investment considerably. The project has also brought together a variety of neighborhood groups, including the Hillcrest Town Council, the Hillcrest Business Association, Uptown Planners, and this collaboration includes bicycle and transportation advocates in a broad, unique coalition. This space in Hillcrest is one of the only opportunities we have as a gathering space. It's already home to the popular Hillcrest Farmers Market, but over the last several years, we have seen the base of our pride flag become the gathering space for community protests and celebrations. It was the heart of the massive Black Lives Matter gatherings and is frequently the site of community activities, not the least of which is the Pride Parade that will occur in a few short months. In addition, this project will plant 150 new trees and add very important parking spaces to the community. I thank you for funding this project, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Katherine Rhodes, who will be followed by Will Radigan.
Hello, this is Katherine Rhodes, and one issue, I've been coming for years here is the downtown multi-use and bus stopover facility, where you spent $39 million so far, and you have $7 million left in your budget. And so far, what you've done is bought property, but the property is the downtown property bounded by A Street, Union, B, and State Street. And in the Alquist Priolo map that just came out on, let's see, what date was that? Just came out last year. It shows an active fault right through the middle of your site. And so, this is kind of an outstanding issue. Is there an active fault there or not? And did Sandag do their due diligence before they bought the property, or not? I don't know. And so, maybe with that $6 million you have left, instead of spending it on buying more property, maybe you could do a fault investigation and find the fault. And then, then my issue would be taken care of. And then you could give the information up to the state geologist so that, we could all have that great scientific information that we're still missing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Will Radigan, who will be followed by Emily Millard.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today. This is Will Radigan with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. I'm here with the partners that have already spoken to support funding for the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeways and the Normal Street Promenade. I think this is a unique situation where we have unanimous support for this project from members of the business community, community organizations, environmental advocates, and mobility organizations like ourselves. Once this project is completed, there will be a fully protected and safe for all ages and abilities bikeway connection between downtown through the 4th and 5th Avenue bikeways to Hillcrest, and then all the way across Uptown through North Park and to the Mid-City and City Heights area. That will provide an almost complete network throughout San Diego's urban core, which is the area of the city that holds the most potential for increasing bicycle mode share. This is an excellent project. It has unanimous support from almost every organization that works in Hillcrest, and we strongly encourage you to fund it, and thank you for the consideration you've given it so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Emily Millard, who will be followed by Gail Fried.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm an intern at Circulate San Diego. Circulate is a nonprofit whose mission is to create vibrant, healthy neighborhoods. Circulate supports the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeway project and Normal Street Promenade. To highlight some points of support for this, it will convert excess travel lanes into walkable, bikeable public space, serving the community's need for quality recreation areas and placemaking while keeping vulnerable road users protected. The project will fix deficient stormwater infrastructure, plant 150 trees, and add over 30 parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Gail Fried, followed by Paul Jamison.
Hi, my name is Gail Fried, and I'm a 10-year resident of Hillcrest. And I am just asking for your support of the Hillcrest project, specifically the promenade. There is no other open space in Hillcrest, and this would be a much needed area for people to gather. I think it would be a great addition to the community. It'll install and fix deficient stormwater infrastructure. We plant 150 new trees, and add more than 30 new parking spaces. Thank you for funding this project for community, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Paul Jamison, who will be followed by Benjamin.
I wanted to express my support for the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeways project. I wanted to quickly describe just how impactful some of these recently completed bikeways have been for me, sort of in context here. The 4th and 5th Avenue Bikeway and the Mead Avenue Bikeways have really greatly improved my safety when I ride these almost daily to support local businesses, get exercise, connect to transit, and reduce my vehicle miles traveled. You know, I no longer have 2-ton vehicles passing me with just inches to spare. So I can't put into words what an incredible difference that makes to me and so many other potential riders. We aren't risking our lives anymore just to safely reach our destinations. So I'm very grateful, and I just want to thank Sandag for those projects and for this potential project. So on Eastern University Ave in Hillcrest, there's currently a painted bike lane there, thanks largely to Mayor Gloria's leadership several years ago, but that bike lane is often blocked by parked vehicles. So University Ave here is very wide with vehicles often traveling at high speeds. So Sandag's proposed protected bike lane facility is critical for this segment. Finally, this project also includes the Normal Street Promenade. I want to express my support for that too. We've seen with the Little Italy Piazza, even converting just a small portion of our public street space from moving personal vehicles to gathering spaces for everyone, it can really have a positive huge positive economic impact on the local business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Benjamin, who will be followed by Sharon Gell.
Hello, everyone. This is Jonathan Lopez with the Hillcrest Business Association. I'm just here to show my support for the Normal Street Promenade, and I ask that you show your support for the Promenade project as well. This is a great opportunity to open up some opportunities in the community of Hillcrest with the multi-gathering space, and I'm here to show my support. And again, we appreciate your support and hope we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Sharon Gell. Sharon, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Sharon Gale. I've been a resident of the Uptown area for 20 years. I served on the Hillcrest CDC board for 6 years. I can say that this project is something that's been supported by the community. It's something they've wanted. A park in this area is something they've wanted for years. This was even part of the 1988 community plan. We need more park area. We need more space to gather around the pride flag. And I urge you to support funding for the Normal Street Promenade. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, that concludes the public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll go to board comment, and I think I'm going to start with Mayor Sals because she had a request for an
Okay, thank you so
addition.
much. And first of all, thank you, staff, for working on this budget. I found it fairly easy to understand this time, and I don't know if that's because I've looked at these year after year after year. I just wanted to say to Melissa that I certainly understand the challenges of retaining employees, no matter how wonderful the workplace may be, because, you know, Matt Hall has stolen several of our good employees because we can't match the wages that he does. And I apologize to you, Todd, for stealing some of your best talent from the city of San Diego. So not only do we have the great resignation, but we have the great game of musical chairs going on right now all over, right? So it is what it is, and we have to look at retaining those staff and being able to hold on to them. So I truly agree with where you're wanting to go, and hope that gets you there, right? Hope that gets you there, because I know that within our own budget in the city of Chula Vista, that's about the increases that we're doing for our collective bargaining groups as well. Great budget. There were a couple of questions that I didn't understand. First of all, I'm really happy to see the healthy report of the debt, the annual payment on the SR 125 bonds relative to the revenue that's coming in. So we're about $5 million to the good each year on that. So that's really good news, and I expect that to increase over time as the economy continues to heat up. But the question that I had is that, right now, the projections are all through the year 2043. And the question, it may have been in the report, but I couldn't find it, is that how much money would Sandag save refinancing the debt, because there's the interest payment, right? How much money would they save at paying off the bonds in 2027 relative to stretching out that payment all the way to 2043 and incurring the interest payments on that? And if you don't have the answer on that right away, I can take that offline. Okay, so do you have it, Andre?
Just so I understand your question, though, Mayor, I just want to be clear. So we do have annual debt service payments, approximately $13 million a year. And in 2027 is the first call date that we could pay off the bonds if we had additional revenues to do that. But maybe I'm not understanding the refinancing question, because right now interest rates are higher than when we first took them out.
Would the agency save money if we pay it early? That's the question, I think.
Right.
If we pay it in 2027, would we save it, money?
Sure, you'd save whatever interest payments that you're going to make from 2027 to 2043.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can calculate that, right?
Yes, I can. I guess I get it now, and I can get back to you with that number.
Yeah, you can get back to me. You don't have to answer that right away. But it's just for my curiosity on that, and I think for the board's, for the board's information as well. And then relative to the task number 4, which is talking about the tolling systems and information activities, is that all of, would that include the I-15, the cost included in that? So you're looking comprehensively at whatever system we have in San Diego region that's collecting tolls?
So generally, when we put in a new, which we are doing currently, a new back office system, as well as a new tolling system, we split it between the cost of SR 125 versus I-15 based on the revenue that each one of them generate.
It does.
Yes.
And it's split based on the revenue generated by each.
Right.
It does, and based on the revenue generated by each.
So there's 2 different systems, and, I have my own agenda that I hope the rest of the board will support in removal of the toll roads on the SR 125. So I know that there's a great deal of money that will have to be spent or that may be spent unnecessarily if the tolls come off and there won't be a need for tolls. So, that's kind of a puzzle to me. How much are we going to spend on the improvement on the SR 125 of tolls? And do we really need to make that big of an investment in that if this board decides to help us with removing the toll?
So, Mayor Salas, and I appreciate the question. Regarding the improvement, as I reported to you in the last few months, we've really been operating under a technology that's going to break any time, and it broke.
It broke.
It broke, and we lost $1.8 million in the result. And let us assume things go well and we be able to pay the bond by 2027. There is no way around, even for this 5 years remaining, until to improve the technology. So, I mean, that could, your point could be in things that are longer term. We'll look at that, but in terms of our plans, like I reported to you, to overcome immediate issues with the technology, we have to do it even if we pay it off in 2027.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the future activities of continuing to, improve the toll operations center building. Are we going to need the building in the future? Is Sandig going to need that building in the future?
Well, we don't know that. Yeah, and again, at that building, I'm sorry. We own that building. This is actually not like this one, depending on what happened. And by the way, an option on the table we haven't discussed with this board yet is for us to outsource the whole operation of tolls. That could be cheaper. I mean, we're looking at all options, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. Outsourcing doesn't mean we're going to get rid of the toll operation, but there's a lot of things on the table, and that would include what we do with the facility that we own there. In addition, we're also planning to use the toll ideas for the auto-mesa too, that we're gonna open. So, you know, there's a lot of things yet to be decided. And again, whether we pay it off in 2027 or 2043, these issues are gonna have to be dealt with.
Okay, thank you very much. And just one last thing before I stop asking questions. As you know, on January the 28th at the board meeting, I requested that SANDAG prioritize the retirement of the SR 125 debt by 2027. And it was recommended that be a broader discussion during the budget process, which is now. So, to formalize SANDAG's commitment to retiring the debt on the South Bay Expressway, I'm requesting that the board support and bring back a resolution that prioritizes paying off the debt when the bonds are callable in 2027 and toll removal. And with your indulgence, I would like to bring the item forward at the June 10th meeting to discuss that as a board. And as you all know, Senator Wesso introduced SB 1169 to take the necessary action needed at the state level to remove the tolls when the debt is paid off. And the bill has passed through the Senate and is now in the Assembly. And I really appreciate the support that we got there on the state level. And so what I asked Jake to do is to pass to the board members present the copy of the resolution that my office has drafted for the board's review before we bring it up for discussion on June 10th. And then if those board members that are not here, I hope that we can get an electronic communication to them. And those are my comments. Thank you. And I
Okay.
appreciate the consideration.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Mento.
Well, I think that budgeting time is always a difficult time. I appreciate all of the concern about staffing. And one question, that $1 million trust you talked about, is that like a 115 type trust or something like that?
Exactly.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure if we're talking about the same things. Here's one of my concerns always when it comes to staffing and budgeting. And that is that, like we talked today about having about 60 people short. Well, it's so easy as an organization, whether it's government or other private business, to say, you know, we're getting along with 60 people less. Do we really have to hire more people? And look at how much money we're saving. So I would say that we need to make sure that we do hire the people back, because what we're asking those people that are still working is do more and more for less and less. And at some point, we'll be saying, we want you to do more and more for nothing at all. And that's just not helpful to the entire environment of the business place. And also it doesn't show that we value our employees like we say. And we shouldn't just say we value our employees, we should show that we value them. Moving on to the bike lanes and things of that nature. Everybody knows I hate bikes here, right? Just a joke. I do a lot of bicycle riding. So I certainly appreciate the bringing forward and talking about all the bike lanes and what goes through San Diego, Hillcrest and beyond. And I've always hated the idea, though, of taking traffic lanes for bicycles, because I think sometimes you put them on the wrong street. You can always find a less traveled street to put your bike lanes on and still get to the same place. Just means you have to go a couple extra blocks out of your way. But if you're a big bicycle rider like I am, you don't mind going a couple extra blocks out of your way because you're getting the exercise, but you're still getting there. Would you agree with that, Jack? Sure. Okay. However, my also concern is when we put bicycle lanes and do some of the proposals in business districts, how businesses can be harmed. And so it's very refreshing to hear so many people, not just from the biking community, come out and support a project, but business owners who support the project. So it makes it hard to say, well, it's not a very good idea because people are going to be harmed by it. So I actually appreciate hearing from the business community, even more so than from the biking community, to be quite honest with you. And so, so I can support all that. So thank you very much. And I know that was more of a statement than question, so sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Vice Chair Gloria.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the kind words from Santee. Thank you, Mayor Minto. I appreciate that support for bikes in general and noticing the progress in this community, which I'm happy to talk about in a moment. I just wanted to reflect quickly at the beginning, and then I'm happy to make a motion to approve this proposal. But the fact that we're talking about $1 billion budget, and there's not 1 million people at the podium, screaming and hollering. I mean, rarely in public service do you get praise when things go well. You just hear from folks when it goes poorly. And to the extent that what we have is a group of folks on a discrete project within $1 billion budget, I think really is reflective of the good work that staff did to put together numbers and figures and proposals and priorities that are embraced by the community. Again, that embrace doesn't often exhibit itself in a lot of public comment. I take the relative low profile nature of today's proceeding to be indicative of the fact that you guys have done good work and that the region broadly supports what you're proposing. And I'm heartened by that because it is inclusive of some salary adjustments for employees, which I think are well deserved. As Mayor Salas mentioned, all of us are dealing with this in our respective jurisdictions. Frankly, we have a lot of money on the table trying to get folks to come do any number of positions at the city of San Diego. I know that Sandag should be no different. And so, Melissa, thank you for providing options to the board, ones that seemingly are well supported, and I think rightly so. Beyond that, I would just give word to the East Hillcrest Bikeway project. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Trent, for being here in person, for the folks who called in as well. I appreciate staff being able to work creatively to find the dollars to make this project happen. As one of the public commenters mentioned, this has been an ongoing concern in Hillcrest for some time. This board had previously considered these kinds of protected bikeways, and we couldn't get support at that time for it. But we, as was mentioned, have an interim measure that's out there, but we could do better. And what I offer this as is maybe perhaps instructive for the community, because as Mayor Minto was getting at a number of years ago, this was not necessarily unanimously embraced by the community. In fact, I think even some of the public commenters today were opposed to previous iterations of bike lanes in the neighborhood. But here we are in universal support from public comment for this particular project. I guess it's a way of saying that over time, people are understanding that this is actually good for the community, that the kind of safety, first and foremost, this provides is good for the neighborhood, that you can get enhanced pedestrian and consumer experience so that businesses appreciate it, and that because Sandag is deploying quality projects, that this is more than a bike lane, right? That you get, as is mentioned, green space increases, stormwater diversion. In this particular case, as the historic home of our region's LGBTQ community, the opportunity for a public plaza. Many of you will join me next month at the Pride Parade at this exact location. It should be more than once a year that we have the opportunity to kind of congregate in that space. We could probably do that every single day of the week and improve the community, bring more business to this neighborhood. And I feel really good to be on the board of an organization that's making that possible. Recognizing this is a partnership with the city of San Diego. The city's going to put up a whole lot of much money to make this work as well. And of course, we have to actually construct it, which we will certainly do. But I appreciate Sandag providing this kind of collaboration on a community-led project that I think will make a major improvement. And again, I reflect upon the fact that all the public comment was on this particular capital project and not the many, many, many more that are in this budget. Again, I take that as high praise in the work that we do, and with extreme appreciation to staff for being able to create a document that so many people can be embracing of. So with those comments, Chair, I move the proposed budget as staff has presented it to us this morning, with extreme appreciation to the team that does all the hard work to put all those figures and all those budgets together. It's a Herculean lift, and I think that the comments of the board and the public today are reflective of the fact that you all have done an exceptional job. So I make that motion and urge my colleagues' support.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, and I see Mayor Hall, but I just want to acknowledge what Mayor Salas said, and that this will be coming back to us on a future agenda at the end of June. So it's just, yes, okay. Thank you. So Mayor Hall. We cannot hear you, Mayor Hall.
I'm sorry, Chair. Again, budget time is always the exciting time during the year when we get to kind of shake things out and look for what we can and can't do. I'd like to just to comment to my colleague, Mayor Salas. I can remember when this project went forward and how we all worked collectively in conjunction with one another with the understanding that there was going to be a funding source. And because of that funding source, it was being given a high priority that jumped over a lot of other projects that were in the pipeline. So if we're going to try and pay this off early, perhaps we need to know where the money and what projects will be pushed off because of wanting to prepay this one. So just some thoughts for when this comes back, because it will be a number. The other, and I appreciate some of the comments from my colleagues, but and we all deal with budgets, we all deal with salaries and so on and so forth. When I looked at this one, my first question would be is, where does that position us in the salary survey amongst other cities? Will this bring Sandag to the top third, to the middle, or so on and so forth with what they're proposing today?
Mayor Hall, thank you for the question. And based on the salary survey that was done last year, the recommendations would help to align the Sandag salary ranges to those of the market. So not necessarily higher than market at this point, but really looking to align the ranges to market.
So again, I guess every agency, and I haven't seen the data behind what you're telling us, but I know we survey all the other cities in the county, whether it's police, fire, or employees, to get some understanding of what that represents. So it's hard for me to say, hey, I need to give X amount, which this seems to be extremely generous, without having more data to where this actually gets me into the market. You say it aligns. To me, that's, I don't like to say this, but it's somewhat vague. It creates a question mark for me. And obviously we all have different ideas of labor and what it takes to acquire people. And I appreciate Mr. Mento's comments. But it's also often much more than salary. It's who we are, our working relationship, and the culture. And so one of my reasons I asked the comment earlier, I mean, we're all part of a family. And so I think there's other things that would help us acquire people besides just salary. So I don't really have enough data to say, yes, this is good, or yes, this is bad. So those are my immediate comments.
Do you want to say anything else, Melissa, in response? No?
I think just to recognize, I mean, I fully agree that what we're talking about in terms of the budget are the financial resources that would support our goals of attracting, rewarding, retaining employees, but fully recognize that this is a more comprehensive effort, that there are policies, pay practices, and other things that are in play that are also being looked at in conjunction with our request for staffing resources and designed to achieve these objectives. So not just focused on pay.
Well, and just as a reminder, so the CEO referred to the telecommute policy as something that might be hampering our ability to hire people. So that seems like a pretty major policy.
That's a really good example of one of the current initiatives that we have underway, is recognizing that employees who have left the organization have commented about a desire to have an increased number of remote work days. And so I think in response to that feedback that we're gathering, we are taking a look at the policy.
Yeah, I'll just say that I support us doing that. It seems reasonable, and I'm glad that that's part of the dialogue, because we don't want to lose really good people over that. Okay, great. We have a motion and a second, so let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you, Chair. And before I start, I just did want to update the previous vote that we took. Mayor Dedina did provide his yes vote on that, so we'll be updating the voting slides. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
No.
For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
No.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson.
No.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Yes.
For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The city of Escondido is absent. For the city of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Imperial Beach, yes.
For the city of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Yes.
For the city of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
The city of Oceanside is absent. For the city of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
For the city of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, no.
For the city of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Avista, no.
Thank you. That item does pass with 10 yeses, 7 nos, and 2 absences.
Okay, thank you. So now we are on to item 12 and 13, which will be held in closed session. First, let's ask if we have any public comments on our closed session items. Francesca,
Thank you,
we?
Chair. I don't see any hands from the public. I did want to let the members know I re-emailed the closed session Zoom link at exactly 9:30 this morning, so it should be fairly close to the top of your inbox.
Okay, thank you. And just as a reminder, after closed session, we will return to open session for a report out and any closing remarks before adjourning. So board members who are joining us virtually today, please log into the closed session link and we will see you there.
You know why there was no one over there yelling, right? Jack and I are here. Well, I think if 40% of us vote no, there's no public comment. The trend is like, you know, diminish. We have to live over here. Yeah. You have any friends in this? Let me know when we're
Mayor Hall and Mayor Sotelo Solis, I see that you're still in the open session of the board meeting. And I know that my Zoom link went out incorrectly this morning, so I did resend the correct one if you were having trouble logging in. You should be able to, you should have a new email with the correct one. So feel free to hop over. Thank you so much.
And of course, I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you for your
Okay, Andy Smitty will report out after closed session.
Okay, we have a quorum, so go ahead and do the report out.
The board met in closed session on agenda item 12 and was briefed on the status of the current litigation, and also item 13 and was briefed on the status of the potential claim. And there are no reportable action items.
Okay, great, thank you. So this concludes our Board of Directors meeting. We'll see each of you at the next Board of Directors meeting, which is on June 24th. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Chair Blakeslee. Vice Chair.